Today I'm going to be talking about Christmas at Maldington, this wonderful book. When famous presenter Genni Kilpatrick watches someone die in front of her on live TV, she has a mental breakdown. In a bid to escape public scrutiny, she flees to Maldington House in search of inner peace. But between her following entourage and the local pantomime production, serenity was elusive. Would she finally find it in the arms of local electrician Paddy? This is a My Weekly pocket novel. And for those that don't know, My Weekly is understandably a weekly magazine that goes out in the UK. It's printed by DC Thomson and they do various different supplements. And this is one of them. And genuinely, I did not know these existed. They're basically aimed at older women. So you're kind of like 50 to 65, I think. It's a similar demographic that would like kind of like the Hallmark Channel. It's not necessarily always Christmas. This one is only about Christmas because I bought it in December. I don't know what it was. It just caught my eye and I became obsessed with it. I need to share it. I need to share this experience with everyone. Basically, the premise is Genni Kilpatrick is a famous TV presenter and a middle-aged, overweight stalker gets on the show because he is convinced that when she sees him, she will realise, like, oh, I love this man. He has a heart attack and dies. And she is understandably traumatized by this man dying in front of her. She has a mental breakdown and she kind of hides from everyone for a few months, and the book opens with her arriving up north on this like little pre-Christmas holiday to just get away from everybody, get away from London and like have a relax and just find herself again and decide what she's going to do going forward. On the screen for you now, I'm going to put in a list of every single named character. It works out roughly at a new character every 1,000 words, which is insane. It's too many. The first few chapters are very front-loaded with names, but even as the book continues, you're still getting more thrown at you. It's like, oh god, who's this now? Even though this is set in the UK, I think the author is wanting to like really emphasize that these are like young people, and she's obviously heard somewhere that like young people drink a lot of coffee and not tea. There is not a single cup of tea drank in this book, and it's set in the UK. It's just not realistic. A lot of the word count is dedicated to people saying like, okay, well, I want to go into the village now, so if you're ready, you should come with me in my car, and then if you're not ready just yet, Paddy's going to drive up later and then drive back into the village, so you can go in Paddy's car, and then like, I don't feel like driving home, so you can drive home, I'll give you the keys. Definitely something that old ladies really love doing. They really love knowing who's going in what car, so I think that not only is padding for the word count, but is to make old ladies think, oh yes, and then Genni can be in this car with Paddy, and then Sandy can be in that car with Rafe, and I don't know. It's just it's a surprisingly large, it's a noticeably large amount of the words are just like, I'll go in this car. We begin, and Genni is arriving at Maldington House. Jenny's really out of sorts because she's traumatized, so she's kind of a little bit rude. But I guess she's in the north, it's scary. And she's offered coffee and shortbread. Shortbread? Genni contemplated the heinous offence of eating extra calories. There are a few pieces sitting on a plate on the kitchen table. It's calorie-free shortbread, Wynne added with a wry smile. Now you might be wondering who Wynne is. Wynne is... I'm not really sure who Wynne is, but I'm pretty sure he works in the kitchen. Genni is taken upstairs to the lovely rooms that sound delightful. They are decorated in old rose shade of dusky pink with a lot of beige and caramel in the soft furnishings for contrast. Personally, When I am thinking of somewhere that's like quite upmarket and quite nice, the colour beige is not really at the forefront of my mind. It just makes you think of those places that are like, that haven't been decorated in like 30 years. Everything's got this like slight like film on it that is equal parts dusty and greasy. And she stamped all of her stuff and she's like, right, I'm gonna go for a little walk. And she tries to leave, but she can't. She is going up and down the stairs like really lost and cannot find her way out. She is so lost. And this is where she meets Paddy. Paddy is repairing something. We don't really know what. His top half is obscured by whatever crawl space or whatever he is in that he's currently fixing. So she begins by talking to his legs. Oh yeah, I'll take you outside, don't worry. And it's decided that it's too dark really for Genni to go for a walk on her own. So Paddy's like, I'll take you round because I'm from here and I know where all the like ditches and stuff are. It'll stop you from falling over in the dark, as you will, because you're a woman. And they have a wonderful romantic moment where Jenny's hands are cold and he's got some like grotty old gloves in his pocket that he puts on her. In a shock move, I was really surprised. Chapter 2 opens with narration from Paddy. Paddy is instantly smitten. Just wait till you hear how Paddy describes Genni, right? So, the woman was elegant. It was an old-fashioned word, but it summed up her style to perfection. Even in that enormous padded jacket with a huge scarf, woolly hat and his old gloves, she oozed elegance. Her eyes, green and as clear and sparkling as crystal, created the illusion, he was sure. Her movements had a smooth fluidity that was both attractive and calming. Okay, so we get the kind of details of Paddy's like business and financial situation, because obviously if you're an old lady and you're looking at like a young woman looking at a man, you need to know that she's going to be financially secure. He's going to take care of everything. So Paddy he's an electrician. He's been in business for 3 years. His business is doing fairly well. You know, he's got some employees and he's got some apprentices. Paddy is financially secure. He goes back to his office and who is there? Bex. Bex is there. Bex is his ex-girlfriend. And I have a theory that she is called Bex because it's like bitch X. Bex is a bitch. Bex is a bitch the whole way through this book. Nobody likes Bex. But actually, I mean, apart from one thing that she does at the end, which we will get to, I actually don't know why everyone hates her. So Bex has turned up to Paddy's office with pizza, and here we get like some crucial character information. This makes Paddy feel like a real person. Paddy smelled the pizza before he saw it, and his spirits plunged even further. No matter how often he hinted, Bex would not understand that he didn't enjoy the Italian fast food. Paddy hates pizza. Paddy hates pizza. We return to Genni for the remainder of the narration of chapter 2. And Genni, like every 27-year-old that you know, turns her phone off a lot. She turns on her mobile phone to scroll through the messages. So she gets a text from her best friend Sandy. Hi babe, hope you, capital letter U, safely installed and checking out the locals for any mails fit for purpose. Whoops, what a giveaway. Looking at trains in case you report favourably. Send details. I have asked several people what they think Sandy means by whoops, what a giveaway. And our best guess is that her only motivation for coming up north to join Genni is if there are hot men. But it kind of like really fits well into that like perplexing text that you get from your mum that has all those like extraneous bits that you're like, I don't really know what you mean by that. What do you mean, whoops, what a giveaway? You would just say like, is anyone hot? I think I'm going to come up. So yeah, she also has a text from her manager, Troy. He's harassing her to do work basically, even though she's still like traumatized. And she has a text from Dens at Chic Toi hairdressing. This is how you know that Genni is like a posh London type, because she has a text from Dens at Chic Toi. I was here. Where were you? That's all Dens says. She never made an appointment with him, by the way. And all of these people text exactly the same way. There's no kind of like differentiating it for different characters. Everybody just does that capital U, and that's it, because we all know that all young people text in exactly the same way. So Sandy, at 25, with a private income from her late father's estate and the kind of looks most women could only dream about, Sandy was interested in playing the field. I don't know if the camera will be able to pick this up, I'll try, but I've literally just noticed a typo as I've been looking at this, as I've been recording this. Instead of roll top bath, it says roll tap. There we go, roll tap bath. She's texted her friends. What is she gonna do now? She's gonna go and have dinner. And Jenny's like, oh god, I guess I could have my dinner in here, but I'd feel bad making the staff come up and give me my food and stuff on my own. So she decides to brave the dining room. She'd been unsure how dressy the other guests would be, and had opted to bring a selection of separates, as every 27-year-old would say. So she decides on a short skirt in brown and a contrasting designer woolly in amber and wine stripes, ensured she'd stay warm. It just sounds horrible. It definitely sounds like the kind of outfit that you'd put on and your gran would be like, oh, you look so nice. I mean, both of my grannies are dead, but like, I feel like if they had to choose me an outfit, that's probably along the lines of what they would choose for me. Jenny's name is Genni Kilpatrick, but Genni is spelled Genni. And I have a theory that when this was submitted, the editorial team had one change that they wanted her to make, and they wanted to change her name to Genni from Ginny, because there are two typos in this book of Jenny's name, and this was the first one. And because, like, as I said earlier, the beginning of the book is so front loaded with new names that when I found this typo, I was really confused. I thought that there was genuinely somebody called Genni Kilpatrick. Oh gosh, oh no, Genny sleeps in. What time do you think she sleeps into? 10:22. 10:22 is not that late for a 27-year-old. It's late when you're like 60. She goes down to breakfast and switches her mobile phone on. But Genny, that's maybe why you slept in, because as all people in their late 20s do, your morning alarm is usually on your mobile phone. Genny is thinking of a career change. She's not really sure that she wants to be in television anymore, so she gets her laptop out to do a little bit more research. Paddy has been drilling, and he comes down to check that the drilling hasn't been too bad. Chapter 4 starts off with some drama. I mean, actually, no, it doesn't. She eats a piece of bread. Sandy turns up, but oh my god, she's crying. Why are you crying, Sandy? Troy, Jenny's overbearing agent, has followed her here. And not only that, he's brought his boyfriend with him. So it's now Genny and her best friend Sandy and her agent Troy and his boyfriend Rafe. Sandy's really sad because she's like, I'm so sorry, I know you didn't want them to come. But Genny can't help but forgive her, because as all 27-year-olds would say, this is Sandy doing this, she looked up at Genny through her lashes with her favourite Princess Di expression in full force. I know the kind of demographic that would say Princess Di expression, and it's the demographic who have written this book and who are reading this book. So I understand completely why it's in there. It's just funny. I just don't know why you would choose to write such a young person. But then I guess there's the fantasy of being young and stuff. Sandy is then described as incorrigible 3 times over this spread. 3 times. And like, that's kind of indicative of the level of like editing that is in this book. As you've already seen, there are typos, but like that kind of, it's repetition that you end up with in like your first draft. Troy is an old lady's idea of your flamboyant gay best friend. His characterization is pretty thin on the ground, but it's kind of, it really sticks out, and it's incredibly jarring. His one kind of like little character quirk throughout this whole book, he never calls Genni by her name. He always calls her Dear Heart. Now, Dear Heart. Like, I get it, I get it, he's kind of flamboyant and he's like, oh, Dear Heart. But that genuinely is like, it's a bizarre turn of phrase masquerading as characterization. It's really weird and it's really jarring. Jenny's upset that they're all there, obviously, because she wanted this time to herself, but Troy is on hand to kind of bully her into making them stay, and he makes some points that, as somebody who's actually from Newcastle, I find a little bit insulting. Basically, it's implied that, not even implied, it's just outright stated that because they're from London, they will have stuck out like a sore thumb. So Troy says to Genni, and the train station? You both arrived there. I'm sure Sandy, with her immaculate makeup and London style, attracted attention. So it's not even that like Genni herself will attract attention because she's off the telly. It's literally just that like Sandy is so London that the northern locals won't know what to do with her. I did do a little bit of Googling about Anne Stenhouse, who wrote it. I'm holding this up really badly. Anne Stenhouse, who wrote it. And she lives in Edinburgh. Like, so Edinburgh and Newcastle are pretty, like, metropolitan cities. I've never been stood in Newcastle Central going, oh my god, there's a Londoner. You can tell because they're so immaculate and they've got designer things on. Paddy, earlier in the book, he invited Genni to come along to a local fundraiser. So he was like, I know this is bad, but it would be really good because obviously you're quite well known, so it would help raise the profile of this fundraiser. I know you're not looking for attention at the moment, but it'd be really great if you could just even come along. And it's to raise money to rent the costumes for the pantomime. And what exciting fundraiser have they put on? They've got 3 blokes who've taken photographs of things, doing slideshows. One guy is doing like European architecture. Paddy has taken pictures of night skies, and here's where we get that little bit of like racism and othering. Blake has brought his photographs of African masks. Blake, who has taken photos of African masks in Africa. You know, that Africa, that vast continent. It is thankfully like the only instance of it in here. But I have a feeling that this kind of attitude towards people who aren't European might potentially be a running theme in this kind of book. There is a little advert for the previous book, Tara's African Adventure. Glad I didn't have to read that one. Sandy was wearing designer everything, with jangling bracelets glinting in the light. So there again, she's too posh, or too exciting, or I don't really know. She's too much for the north. She's too much. When they arrive at the theatre, Sandy finally gets a glimpse of Paddy, because she's only heard about him. She's only had Genni telling her about him, and Jenny's kind of like, oh, well, you know, you might be married. And Sandy says that thing that a lot of 25-year-olds say, no wedding band, my dear. That thing that your mate says, not your gran. Troy, her manager, is kind of trying to do his thing and like big Genni up and stuff. Bex comes to stir some shit, and she wants Genni to take a photograph with the local press so that it'll like promote the fundraiser and promote the pantomime and stuff. But Genni is still in a state. The thought of having a picture taken for the paper is just like sending her into a panic attack. So she's like, no. So Troy, in his infinite wisdom, decides to tell Bex that if she wants Genni to take a picture, then she'll have to pay. Genni meets a little girl, and the little girl says, I drawed the mouse. She drew a mouse for something. Ugh, I hate bits like that in books. It's just like, It's a really, really cheap way of being like, my character's nice because children like them. Paddy has followed them back to Maldington because he would like to ask Genni a question. The original director of the pantomime has the flu and so can't direct it anymore. So he has come to ask Genni if she will direct it. Because Troy earlier had said to Bex, Genni will not pose for a photo unless you pay her, Paddy thinks that in order for her to want to do something like direct the local pantomime, he will have to pay her. This really pisses Genni off. She's really, really angry that he would insinuate that she would want paid for something. And he is really confused that she is angry. But Bex said that you needed a fee. And then Jenny's like, but I don't. Oh, Troy must have said to her that I needed a fee. I didn't really know what they were arguing about. But yeah, Jenny's really angry. When Paddy says, like, I'll give you $5,000 out of my own pocket, she turns to him and she says, you think I'm the mercenary cow the papers described after that accident, don't you? They guess that Troy must have said to Bex that she needed a fee. Genni is a little bit worried that, like, internet trolls might find that she's directing a local panto, but then they quickly just go, nah, probably not. But then she's got herself all excited thinking about being the director of a pantomime, so she feels a bit woozy. So she decides to she's not going to finish dinner, and she's just going to go back to the room and, like, go to sleep and stuff. But she finds Paddy, he's, like, slipping a copy of the script underneath her door, and she's like, oh, Paddy, you're still here? And he's like, yep. Now that she's discovered Paddy outside her room, and they've spoken a couple of times, we get our first kiss. He lowered his head and kissed her fleetingly on the lips before he disappeared out of the suite, and she was looking at the space where he'd been only seconds before. I don't really know why he kisses her though, because what have they done together? She was lost in the hotel. He helped her not be lost. They went for a little walk. He saw her on her laptop. He invited her to a fundraiser. We're almost halfway through the book, so I guess it is almost time for a little kiss. But I just, I'm not feeling the chemistry. They've not spoken to each other enough. They've not interacted. They've just kind of been standing in the same room. They've had this argument, and it almost reads like it wasn't resolved properly, but he still gives her a little kiss. And then later on, when we get back to Paddy, he's still like, oh, I feel bad because we had an argument. But it's like, but you kissed her. Does that not mean the argument was over? At the beginning of chapter 7, Genni and Sandy have read over the script and they both agree that it sounds great. So they're eating breakfast, and amazingly, Genni has left her phone on. Maybe that's why she was up in time for breakfast. She really should have checked who was phoning, because it was a number that she didn't recognise, so she just picked up, and oh no, it's a journalist. She starts with a little bit of small talk. She's just like, oh, I understood from Troy you were really busy and blah blah blah. And then she says, so how do you think Christmas will be for families who are spending the first one without their granddad, Genni? Yeah, the guy died on her TV program, but she didn't make him go on and she didn't kill him. She's really, like, gone for the jugular. What a question to ask someone. How do you think they're coping? Their first Christmas without their granddad. It's your fault for being so alluring, Genni. We get our second Ginny, but it's spelt differently this time. It's G-I-N-N-I, whereas the last one was G-I-N-N-Y. And it makes me wonder if the author, she doesn't know how to do find and replace, and she's actually gone through the text one by one and changed it from Genni to Ginny. No, sorry, from Ginny to Genni. And there's a really bizarre turn of phrase as well, where she describes the journalist as the dratted female, which is a phrase that I usually associate more with, like, incels. Anyway, Bex has let herself into Paddy's office again, And he's like, man, we should get the locks changed. I think he does. And annoyingly, she's been reading his electronic diary on his computer. So now he's going to have to change all his appointments because otherwise Bex is going to turn up to all of them. Genni gets to know the music director a bit better. He's called Basil. He, again, is like very flamboyant. Genni wants to talk to Paddy a little bit more about the lighting script. And he's like, fine, that's cool, we can do that. But after lunch, let's eat lunch first. So Paddy invites Genni back to his house. And what is lunch going to be? Lunch at my place will be soup. Chapter 8 is where Paddy really establishes that he is an absolute dreamboat. Okay, so obviously he's taking Genni back to his house in his car. They pulled up in the drive of a 2-story stone house set back from a village main street and boasting a small pond in the front garden. Man, old ladies have mundane fantasies. It's just like a stone 2-story house. And he owns his own business. I mean, as a millennial, I shouldn't laugh because, like, that's so unattainable for somebody my age. But, like, I just feel like that demographic should be used to aiming a bit higher than just, like, a stone 2-story house. The house is even more exciting than that. Because when Genni enters, she looks round and lets out a gasp of surprise. "This is spectacular," she said. "You've taken away the ceiling here and made the room above into a mezzanine." A mezzanine. Oh. Be still, my beating heart. There's still enough roof left to hold some solar panels. Paddy, as if he couldn't get even more attractive, arrives back into the kitchen wearing tidier jeans, a loose sweater, and some thick socks. He also owns a bread maker. They have a little chit chat where Paddy literally is like, "No, Bex, is my ex-girlfriend. I ended it with her." But even though he's really clear about this, Genni doesn't really believe him. She does in this moment, but there are loads of points later in the book where it's more convenient for the plot if she doubts this and doesn't believe him. She says that he must be a rough diamond. Or maybe he was simply a normal red-blooded male, unlike the men she'd been thrown into such close contact with over the years of her stardom. I mean, those thick socks. What a red-blooded male. Is it hot? She can't face Christmas in London, so she's going to stay at Maldington over Christmas. So she asks Paddy, is there anywhere I can rent a car? Because obviously he's going to know because he's a man. "Don't you worry, I'm just going to stick you on my company car insurance." It's like, Paddy, that's not sensible. You've known this woman for 5 days and you're willing to just stick her on your car insurance. What are you doing? She might be terrible. She might have hundreds of points on her license. She might make your premiums shoot right up. You can't just stick. I know you've seen her on the telly, but that doesn't mean she's your friend. Don't worry, he doesn't make her drive around in a big Jeep or something that would be suitable for the countryside. She's a dainty lady. That's going to be far too much for her. So the car he, for some reason, has is a Mini Countryman. I don't really know why he would have a Mini Countryman in his fleet of cars if he's an electrician. I would have assumed that he would just have vans, but she doesn't pay him or anything. It's just cool, now you can drive this Mini. Now that the car and stuff is sorted, Genni is, she's worried. What if she doesn't do a very good job of directing the panto? And Paddy's teasing her about it. And he says, it won't have anything to do with the ropey directing by a jumped up TV starlet. And Jenny's indignant, jokingly so. But she's like, "Starlet?" Genni protested. "I'm 27. It's a very long time since I could qualify as a starlet." They're doing a pantomime rehearsal. Genni makes some notes about their performance, but she's just handwritten them and she wants to kind of tidy them up and take everybody through them later. But Bex tries to stir shit a little bit and she's like, "Oh, what, are they really nasty? Is that why you don't want to tell us now?" And she's just like, "Nope, basically everybody's going home." And Sandy's saying goodbye to somebody. Genni observes this, so Genni says that she had heard Sandy's gasp of astonished admiration when the man let himself bend backwards and collect his evening bag from the edge of the table with his teeth. So Sandy was saying goodbye to a man who's playing somebody in the pantomime, and he leant stretched over backwards and picked up a bag with his teeth before going home. Why? Yeah, there's freaks everywhere. They go home. Disaster strikes. Agnes Logie has had a heart attack. Who's Agnes Logie? Why have I not told you who Agnes is before finding out that she has a heart attack? Because the book hasn't told me who Agnes is before finding out that she has a heart attack. At the mere mention of the word heart attack, Genni, faints. She keels over, because remember, that's what the stalker died of on her game show, a heart attack. So she's traumatized. She can't think of heart attacks without passing out. Everyone then has a little bit of a discussion about the surgery and stuff for a heart attack, which I presume is absolutely 100% for old ladies, because old ladies love talking about what surgeries they've had, what surgeries their friend had, what surgeries their neighbour's having. All the grannies will be reading that being like, oh, I remember when I had my stent fitted. Paddy's taken Genni aside. They're sitting and drinking some hot chocolate in an attempt to help her recover from hearing about somebody else having a heart attack. But it's so dull that the author's like, oh shit, I better make this a bit exciting. And they are, after all, alone in a room together. Suddenly he gathered her into him and kissed her. It was a deep and searching kiss, unlike the one he dropped on her mouth before, and she responded urgently. Somewhere outside, a dog barked. Paddy doesn't stay over though, he goes home, so Genni's alone when she wakes up the next day. Troy is getting frustrated with her because she's not taking on any work, because she's traumatized. Sandy tries to diffuse the situation with a phrase that my 25-year-old friends definitely say. Now, my chicks, no spurs, please. Rafe, Troy's boyfriend, he's a teacher. He has been thinking about the fact that Genni is planning on staying at Maldington over Christmas. So he drops this bombshell. He's like, do you know what? I actually think I'm going to stay here too. And Troy's like, we can't stay here. And Rafe's like, I know we can't stay here, but I can. You can go to London. And he also says this incredibly young person phrase of, I know how much business you transact at parties and squashes. But Troy's obviously understandably hurt because his boyfriend is saying, no, I don't want to spend Christmas with you, basically. In my mind as well, up until this point, there had been a little bit of doubt exactly what their relationship was, because it wasn't confirmed, but we do get that confirmation now. Someone died, Troy, Rafe interrupted his lover ruthlessly. So there we get the confirmation that they are indeed a gay couple. Yes, someone died. A middle-aged idiot who'd convinced himself he was Genni's secret passion. Genni is so incensed by Troy's behaviour that she, indignantly shouts that she's leaving show business for good. She says, I won't be renewing my contract with Celeste Management. I'll be finding a different job. A real job. With real people. And she runs away. Genni is really upset because, she's had this argument with Troy about the man that died, but also, she's worried that because of this drama, it's, her fault that her, best friends, are breaking up. So Genni opens chapter 11, by driving her car in a way that I wouldn't recommend. Genni crashed the gears a couple of times, but soon found herself driving down a narrowing track that bore no relation to the main drive out onto the road into the village. How had she done that? So she drives into a ditch. Genni just drives that mini countryman straight into a ditch. I told you, Paddy. I told you that it was a bad idea putting a woman that you barely knew on your car insurance. Luckily for her though, as she's driving into the ditch, Paddy is also driving the other way, not reading the situation very well. He knocks on the window and she winds it down and he says, need some help, he asked? A map maybe? Genni screamed. Paddy's response is confusing. It just says, heh heh. Need some help, he asked. A map, maybe. Genni screamed. Heh heh. My best guess is that the author means hey, because they write heh again at a different point in the novel that I think is also meant to be like a calming, like shushing, like hey, hey. I think Paddy is saying hey, hey to like calm her down. But most people would write that, you know, like H-E-Y or some variant thereof. I don't understand this book anymore. What's happening? Oh, so, but, you know, Paddy's Paddy. He's a man. It's fine. I'll get my mate to come and drag the car out of the ditch. It'll be fine. And he gets her into his car and he takes her into town. And they get a coffee, they drink a coffee, and she calms down. So for the end of the chapter, we switch back to Paddy's narration and we get to hear how he's feeling after her driving into a ditch. And he, even though they've only known each other for a week, he says she'd rapidly become the most important person in his life, and watching her drive into a car accident had been terrifying. Why did you laugh at her then, Paddy? Some guy's being an arse about an oven that he needs installed. The other guys that work for Paddy couldn't get the job done, so Paddy's going to go and install this oven. I'm pretty sure that you get a gas man in to install an oven, not an electrician. So either this whole village is incompetent, or Paddy is just really talented and is also a plumber. No, not a plumber. He's also a gas man, as well as an electrician. And a lighting engineer, apparently. Paddy's just multifaceted. Potentially, Troy and Rafe have split up. Oh no. Troy has left the building. Troy has gone back into Newcastle to see if he can get a train back down to London, and Rafe has decided that he's going to stay with Genni and Sandy over Christmas. Their relationship might be over, oh no, but who cares about that, because Jenny's got some notes to type up on her laptop from the pantomime rehearsal. She sends Paddy a quick email and he's like, yep, I can print them out for you. That's the end of the chapter. 5 and a bit pages, that's it. That's all that happens in chapter 12. Jenny's typed up her notes and things. They're going to have another pantomime rehearsal. So they go into the village to the pantomime rehearsal. But oh no, disaster has struck. You know that oven that Paddy was like thinking about the fact that he had to install it? He's stuck at that job. But oh no, Paddy's got Jenny's notes. What is she going to do? Maggie saves the day. I was a bit confused about who Maggie was, because when she's introduced earlier in the novel, she's introduced as Margaret. And like, yes, I am aware that Maggie is obviously a common nickname for Margaret, but there are a number of characters in this who are completely different people and have similar names. So for a little while I was like, who's Maggie? Where has she come from? Mobile phones are a wonder, Maggie said. Really? Genni asked. It won't be ideal, but you should be able to open the file on your smartphone. Oh, Genni said. Alternatively, you can send the file to me and I'll knock out a couple of copies for you in the office here, Martin said. I'm sorry I didn't change my voice for Martin. I didn't realise it was a different person. There's too many people in this book. I love it so much. I love the idea that Genni, as a 27-year-old woman, doesn't realise that she can just open things on her phone, and she has to have the woman doing the costumes be like, those mobile phones are a wonder, aren't they just? Agnes Logie, who you remember because you love her so much, because you've heard so much about her. She's had her surgery, she's had her stent fitted or whatever, and she's feeling a lot better, so everyone's a lot happier. Agnes is going to be fine. Because Paddy can't be with Genni right now, he gives her a quick phone call so they can have a steamy chat. So he phones her to apologise about not being in bed with her, and she's like, hardly your fault. And he says, that's not why I'm sorry, Genni. I'm sorry because I'd really rather be curled up where you are than back here listening to the wind rise. Genni flushed with pleasure at his words. You have music too. I have music, the food of love, but not the person I'd like to share it with. Have lunch with me tomorrow. Chapter 15 is the chapter in which nothing happens. As with many things in this book, I wasn't really sure about what year this was set in, just like I wasn't sure how old Genni was, and I wasn't sure if Rafe and Troy were like a couple or not, and the book thankfully does confirm this for me. It's performance night for the pantomime. A young woman came slowly through the group, and when she found Genni, offered her an elbow bump in the way everyone had done during the pandemic earlier in the year. So that's nice, isn't it? For in this version of our world, the pandemic is over by Christmas. Even though large sections of this book have been dedicated to this pantomime, the only kind of like description of the actual event itself is this. The production had gone down a storm. The cast were jubilant. The theatre had been absolutely full, and the audience had laughed and groaned and cheered as much as any of them might have wanted. And then it cuts to, like, Troy giving her a glass of champagne for a job well done. Oh no, it's a glass of whiskey. That's it. It was good. I suppose, though, it's because this chapter has much more exciting plans than a pantomime. One of the other cast members comes down to say to Paddy, like, oh, somebody spotted something weird up on the light rigging. Can you, like, check what it is? And he's like, sure, okay, that sounds weird, but okay, I'll come down and I'll check what it is. She was dressed in jeans and a short bomber-style jacket with huge pockets in front. Her glorious hair was coming out of its band and dropping onto her shoulders. I'm so glad she's got huge pockets. He caught sight of something falling despite the dazzle of the strong light and threw himself forward to bring Genni down in a rugby tackle and roll her across the floor. A plaster statue, one of the props from the ball scene, smashed onto the stage. Paddy felt a shard or two scratch his hands, but Genni was safe beneath him. Somebody's tried to kill Genni with a statue. Paddy has secretly invited her brother up to watch the pantomime. So Jenny's like really overjoyed and really excited to see her brother. So she gives him a big hug. And then she says the weirdest thing about him. She gives him this big hug and then she says, "You even smell the same." I have an older brother and he would be like, if I hugged my brother and I was like, "You smell the same," he'd be like, "What the fuck? Leave me alone." They're talking about who on earth will have tried to kill Genni. And Bex insinuates that Genni tried to kill herself with the statue. Bex has like spun this tale to Jenny's brother that for some reason she's given Paddy special dispensation to like pretend to be Jenny's boyfriend to help sort her mental health out. She's like, oh, you know, traumatized people relive traumatic events. If she was reliving traumatic events, she'd be trying to induce heart attacks in middle-aged men. Paddy pretends to believe what Bex is saying. And Jenny's distraught. Genni obviously does not know that Paddy is pretending to believe what Bex is saying. And she like runs out of the house in hysterics and is like screaming in the night. And like for some reason, by pretending to believe what Bex is saying and saying that like Genni will have tried to kill herself with a statue, that will induce Bex to like reveal her hand, that it was actually Bex that put the statue up there in order for it to drop on Genni. Like, how does that mean that Bex will tell him that she was the one who dropped the statue? Paddy runs outside and says, "Genni, my love." He reached her and tried to gather her into him, as he had done several times now. She stepped away, though. This time she wasn't falling for that easy charm. "Genni, I had to make her show her hand. I'm sorry," Paddy pleaded. It's just like, Paddy, how would that make her show her hand? There's no way that pretending to believe Bex would induce her to admit it was her. It just doesn't make any sense. But, you know, like the police come and they arrest her and take her to jail. If you discount the whole statue thing, like genuinely there's no reason that I can think for the whole village to hate her. There's genuinely just no characterization for her. It's just that she has red hair and she keeps making Paddy eat pizza, even though he really dislikes pizza. Genni wakes up on Christmas Day with Paddy in the bed beside her. They put on their boots and jackets and stuff and they go for a wee walk. "I do love you," she said. "I'm so glad," Paddy answered. "Darling girl." He traced the outline of her cheekbones and, ignoring the wolf whistles from Marcus and Mandy, bent his head and kissed her. "I'm particularly glad that the unhappiness is gone," he murmured. "Unhappiness?" Genni asked. "Yes, I suppose I was unhappy when I came here first. It seems like a lifetime ago." "No, my love. The lifetime is yet to come." Are you really just giving up your entire career that you enjoy for this random electrician bloke that you've known for 2 weeks? I don't think you should do that, Genni. If my friend had a traumatic experience, and as part of her recovery went on a wee holiday and then was like, he's the love of my life, I'm going to stay here with him and we're going to be together and I'm never going to work again and blah, blah, blah. I would be like, oh, okay, wait. Let's have a proper think about this. It's not the satisfying ending that it thinks it is, because it's just but Genni, what about your whole life? Okay, what did I like about Maldington Hall? I loved when Maggie had to explain mobile phones. I loved all of Jenny's hideous outfits, and I loved all the it was beige. I kind of just love how crap it is. I think it's missing a few tricks. In the first half of the book, there's a lot of noise made about the fact that Genni is really famous. If she's got journalists hounding her all the time, you could have had some fun with that. You could have had some instances and scenarios where she's maybe trying to dodge photographers. Oh, there's another photographer, and oh, there's another journalist. You could have a really fun little thing where they have to hide in an alleyway and it's so fun and exciting, and we're at the beginning of this new relationship, but this is kind of weird circumstances because you're so famous. Maybe Paddy endears himself to her because he helps her escape some journalists. Maybe there's a bit of tension because somebody has they've gone out for a coffee or something and somebody's taken some pictures and sent them into a local celebrity magazine or whatever. And that's how Bex gets wind of the fact that Paddy is moving on. The 50,000 word limit is not the problem. It's a case of just deciding what you're going to do with the space that you have. And there's just some poor decisions in here. If your reader is coming across a typo of your main character's name and has to stop and think for a moment and think, is this a typo or is this a new person that I've not heard about? Then there's something wrong with the number of names that you have in your book. I was genuinely worried because I was like, wait, who's that? Wait, who's that? And there was so many times that I was pulled out of the story because I just was I think I'm supposed to know who this person is. Trim the fat, get rid of all of those extra characters. Have Bex do something, don't just say she's a bitch. Make her a bitch, but in a believable way. It's she's been so kind of milquetoast up until the point that she tries to kill Genni with a statue that it's just laughable because it's not believable, because she's not been that vindictive up until that point. You don't turn up at somebody's office with pizza and then go immediately to dropping statues on love rivals. Have a moment maybe where Bex is pretending to be Jenny's friend. Yeah, we've broken up, but no hard feelings. I'll give you some tips. And Genni can go and buy the biggest, most expensive gold-plated pizza she can buy with her TV money. And Paddy's upset because he doesn't like pizza. That was Christmas at Maldington, a book I was obsessed with for 2 weeks of my life. And I'm so glad that I've got to share this with you. And if you enjoyed this, consider subscribing and liking the video. I'm also going to put a link to my Ko-fi page in the description. You can make a one-off donation if you enjoyed the video, or you can set up a monthly subscription like Patreon. It's like Patreon. I'm also a comic book artist and writer, so my Ko-fi at the moment is kind of more geared towards that. So you'll see a lot more stuff about my recently finished webcomic Subterra, as well as the next project that I'm working on. Don't be surprised if for the moment it looks very much like it's a comic book artist's Ko-fi page, because that's what it is at the moment. I'll see you later. I'll see you next time, because I am doing this again. The only thing that I can think of that is more appealing to old ladies than a Codebreaker and Gino D'Acampo would have to be a Missing Link and Anton Chubek.